You don't have to be a branding wizard to build a brand. You just have to know the story that you want to create, and the rest will just fall into place. Hi, I'm Cyndi Ramirez-Fulton, founder and CEO of Chillhouse, and today's class is about building a brand in the Instagram era. According to the web, a brand is a product manufactured by a company under a particular name. But according to me, a brand is an experience or an elicited feeling created by a company. So what do I mean by that? I guess we can talk through some of the bigger brands out there. Let's start with a brand like Nike. Nike evokes the feeling of strength, of power, of you can do it, right? Just do it. And that is a feeling that a brand like Nike creates. Other brands are very different, such as a brand like Chanel. Chanel is classic, timelessness, trust, of course, as well, and luxury and chic luxury. And it's so synonymous with a particular location like France. So every brand has its own feeling that they're trying to evoke onto their customers. And that's really at the core of what a brand should do. So for example, Chillhouse, my story makes my brand authentic, but I have to actually create a feeling that could have a brand stand on its own legs. So like a name like Chillhouse allows me to really play around with the feeling of chill. And chill, as we all know, is a word that describes relaxation and feeling at ease, feeling comfortable, feeling less stressed. That name and that feeling and that story has allowed me to now build a brand around those adjectives: relaxation, comfort, home, all of those words that describe my brand and business. I think we all struggle with the idea of defining ourselves, but when it comes to a brand, it's almost like imperative that you do. And so take yourself out of it. How would you describe your brand? Very simply, just think about that. One-liner, what's your brand? From there are a lot of other kind of building blocks, but I think defining your brand is obviously one of the most important steps to setting the tone for what the future is. If you don't know what you want to do when you grow up, or now that you are grown up, I think we all can relate that we do know how we want the imprint that we want to make in this world in some way, shape, or form. At the end of the day, we all can maybe tap into that. And so how do you bring that out in a physical product or a service or an experience that people can then engage with? We all say don't judge a book by its cover, but of course we all do. And so with that in mind, that's kind of what happens with our logo. What we use to create that logo is super important to then attracting the customer that you've set out to attract, and get the respect from that customer, that you really want and need. For example, Chillhouse uses a sans serif font. It's slightly customized to us, but it's a sans serif font, which is the millennial font category of choice. Millennials know it, they're comfortable with it, they know that the brand, whatever brand uses it, is a brand that they may be interested in exploring. So that's kind of why we ended up with a sans serif font. So every font category, typeface category, kind of comes with its own little personality attributes. And again, there are a lot of different resources out there that can help you hone in on those. So obviously not everything can be the same font, right? You need subtitles, you need copy. There are multiple different copy breakdowns that you'll need throughout the lifespan of your brand. So you'll need at least maybe 3 to 4 different fonts that you use throughout all of these different channels and in all of your different assets. So definitely don't limit yourself to anything less than 3, I'd say. You want to be able to play around with titles. You want to be able to play around with the subtitles or the copy, the description copy underneath all of that. And those all require different kind of scales and weights of fonts in order to really gravitate the eye and let people know, hey, pay attention here right now, and then pay attention here a little later. So visual identity doesn't stop at typefaces. There are a lot of different ways your brand can transpire through visuals, one of which being photography. So photography, you can definitely experiment, but at the end of the day, you should find lighting that works well across multiple things that you're shooting. It could be You could be shooting a face, you could be shooting a product, you could be shooting a location, but there should be some sort of consistency across the visuals of this photography. Another thing that's important to your identity is are the people that you put forward. If you do choose to put people forward in your brand, what do they look like? Who are they? All of these different people are obviously really important to your visual identity. It helps the customer connect on a much deeper level outside of just a logo and voice. Colors are super important, of course, because them too can evoke a feeling. So yellow, does it make you happy? I hope so. Yellow is a huge color for happiness. Red and orange, a little bit of hunger, and yellow, that combination, McDonald's, right? You think of things that inspire hunger. Blue, it's a very calming color. A lot of times brands use it to evoke a feeling of tranquility or sometimes a feeling of trust. Color is actually a really fun thing to think about even earlier on in the process. If you have a favorite color, if you're like, I'm dead set on having a brand that uses purple in all of their branding, great, go with that and let that kind of help you dictate what those emotions are that kind of carry through throughout your brand voice and the visuals of your brand. Another element are patterns. So patterns can be very provoking in so many different ways. The patterns that we use are very, again, chill. We use a lot of swirls and a lot of these curves that kind of hopefully inspire relaxation. Other people's patterns could be very blocky and regimented, geometric. Geometric can make you feel maybe a little bit more confined. So not everyone can design their own brand, right? I definitely don't know anything about how to run Illustrator or Photoshop. That's not my jam and may not be your jam either. So if you want to go in the direction of finding an agency or a freelance creative that can help you hone in on your brand visuals, definitely look into who they've worked with in the past. Have they worked with brands that are similar and like-minded to yours? If so, then they're probably a great candidate to be the person that puts these visuals into effect. Otherwise, if you want to take a stab at it, definitely again start looking at other brands that inspire you, that have a similar mission and share a similar audience. I think that's a really easy way to start narrowing down the types of typefaces and the types of colors and the types of patterns that they use, and see how you can obviously differentiate yourself. But of course, comparison is always a great way to start putting those things into effect.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest videos.